All right, today I would like to talk about just my general thoughts on the Mutants and Masterminds default character sheet. This is the third edition character sheet. It's an editable PDF that's been around. I found it online. You can get it just about anywhere. They're all over the place. And I've got a few notes. I think we'll just start right out the gate with some of that. So this is the default Mutants and Masterminds character sheet. It's editable, hence the blue, but by default, it's all white. So when you go to print it out, some things I like off the bat, I like the defenses over here. I especially like that it says agility, fighting, stamina, awareness. The same thing does not hold true for this back sheet. So either you're going to put agility here, or you're going to put, I have 3 agility, and then 2 ranks, and then total of 5, and then maybe a bonus from something else for a +7. I found every time, all my players, especially the new players, will look at this and immediately think, okay, is it this number or this number or this number? Which of these 3 numbers am I actually, hold on. Am I actually looking at? So this could be a little cleaner. These guys up here, nice and big. I like that. I find this offensive panel, the initiative, gets lost. None of my players seem to ever remember that the initiative is right here. These kind of come out to like bite +4, but sometimes this can be, toughness 19, fortitude 14, and then you want to put in like impaired, disabled, paralyzed, reach 15. So this kind of shows a little bit of the problem with this sheet is that, I keep doing that, is that the more you type into these panels, the smaller the text becomes and everything gets harder to read. And that transfers down to the rest of this stuff. Over here, hero points. This is fine. This is okay. This is power points earned, power points spent. Now, this one sheet here for powers, it's okay depending on what kind of format you do. I always try and put in some kind of flavor text. And on this sheet, I was very careful about having the math for how everything is built so that when we kept coming back and checking in on leveling ups, it would be very much easier to follow along. But as you can see, the more stuff your character gets, the more heavy all the details end up becoming. So like the more detail you put in here, the harder it is to read any of this stuff. Now I'm making characters for pickup games at Gen Con, and honestly, if I handed this to a brand new player, which I have done for some of my other players, it does not go quite well. Usually what I do these days is I take all the math out before I give it to people, and I keep the math one for myself for reference. But, even this is a bit much. You know what I mean? This is a bit too much, too over complicated, I think, especially for a new player who's never picked up the system before. So what I decided I wanted to do was to do this where, let's hide all the extra stuff that I put in here. Yeah, so It's the same sheet, same basic sheet. However, I took out a lot of the extraneous stuff. So instead of all of this height, age, weight, eyes, group affiliation, base, power level, what your identity is, we just stripped all that out to just be the hero and then the player who's playing them. And then we'll put a brief kind of general description of what the hero is about. Um, Down here, you'll notice I added speed, leap, swim, and initiative to this little rack. Some characters will have flight here instead of swim. I made them quite a bit wider. Hero points and power points. This is a one-shot pickup game. I don't think anyone needs to, you know, track how many power points a character has if you're only going to play them just that one time. Yeah, so generally, I wanted to make these bigger so we can get more numbers in here. Even though on the other sheet, I like that it says what stat affects these defenses, I took that out for this one to make more room for making these squares bigger and easier to see. For a pickup game, I don't think it's necessarily that important for everyone to know how all the math adds up. Now, you'll notice I kept most of the rest of this the same, except I generally increased the size of this for the powers. Next up, for the second page, you don't need that. I just took advantages and equipment. You'll notice on the back of the blank sheet, they've got advantages, complications, equipment, vehicles, headquarters. This is a one shot. I don't think we even need to know what the complications are for a one shot, especially because I am going to just give everybody 3 hero points and they can just check them off as we go. It'll just keep, I don't want to have everybody write their own complications and then have to keep track of 6 players' new off the cuff complications for a game. And I also don't want to write complications for their characters as they haven't actually played them yet or know who they are. On the back, you'll notice I took out all of the incidental math for the skills. We're not going to need to know the math of how they put together. All they really need to know is what the role is. Sidearm 7, insight 6. And notice I have these bars down the middle here. That is on account of these characters, the Sailor's Boon heroes. These are all Power Ranger Super Sentai characters. So whenever there is a dash down the middle between 2 numbers, the one on the left is your civilian human stat, and the one on the right is your Power Ranger suited up stat. And that is true. That is true across the board. Whoa, what is happening here? There. So even up here, athletics, acrobatics, they have that too. Also, back here in the advantages tab, the suit gives characters a whole bunch of different advantages, which are Mutants and Masterminds versions of feats, except that you can tinker them into different powers individually. They don't have to all be dedicated to the character. In this case, the suit gives you advantages. So I split them up into basic and suit up. I think maybe we'll call this civilian. Kind of nice. Yeah, so compared to my old sheets with this stuff, the move objects, continuous, precise. So what I would do is I would put the build at the top, the stat build, and then I would give my players this big fat flavor text to kind of give everybody a general sense of what's going on. So I'm trying to do a little bit of that here, but even more simple. So right out the gate, everything has the action it takes, the range, then roll 1d20 plus 7. This is a sidearm 7. Boom. And DC 18. And then I've got multi-shot, repeating pistol. Deal extra damage to single targets when you succeed by multiple degrees. Can take a -1 to your attack bonus per target to attack multiple targets. So the idea is, every entry starts with your basic, the basic information to accomplish the roll. Standard action. Some of these, like armor, move action to activate armor. That's it. That's all it does. But then, power armor summoned from thin air. This blue armor enhances most of your physical abilities, grants you a whole suite of combat advantages, as well as access to your Ice Needle Blaster. And then you'll notice in gray down here, because I wanted to give anyone who was like curious and wanted to take these characters home and maybe build and change them, I wanted to make sure they had the build information, because Mutants and Masterminds is like a modular effect-based system where you combine different pieces together, Lego style. And these bits here are the pieces that you combine. Trying to make it as visibly legible as possible without getting overwhelming. So it's like focus, trying to draw the eye to the flavor text first. So when you pull the sheet out, boom, you can see the text. That's the first thing you see. Boom, right there, drawn to the eye. I put a little extra point of space right here to separate it even more. And then I put this mask gray fill behind it just to make it even more attractive to the eye. Not quite as dark as this stuff, which in retrospect I think might need to be lightened up, maybe to match. That might be a good idea. I have so many of these to make. I've got 19 characters I'm getting. I've got 6 of them done. Then I'll have to double back once they're all done and make sure, because even now in just showing you guys this, it's finding little typos and stuff that are going to drive me nuts. I don't know. I left this big notes area blank. And honestly, I don't know what to do with this big space in the back. Thinking maybe just put like lore of the adventure. Basically, I'm just trying not to do this where, all right, so like this is a character straight out of the book, and his stuff is, all right, he's got the attributes. Flight 9, 100 miles per hour. That doesn't help at all because we measure things in feet, obviously. Enhanced stamina, immunity 10, life support. No one's going to know what that is. Impervious, no one knows what that is. Impervious toughness. So a lot of these out-of-the-box Mutants and Masterminds characters rely heavily on the players actually knowing what all of these keywords mean. It gets really out of hand. Remote sensing, visual auditory, physical body is defenseless, subtle 2. I know what all those mean, but a greenhorn player sitting down for the first time isn't going to know any of that. So that is why I'm trying to make this as clear as I can, starting with standard action, common thing, range, 3 degrees of range. That's a common thing. Roll a d20, toughness 18. If I ask them what's the toughness on that sidearm, they'll be able to look and see it. Anyway, that's the hope. Trying to make these as legible as possible. Shoot me some comments, like, subscribe, and give me any thoughts you have on how I can make this even more clearer, even more user-friendly. And I don't know. Talk again another time. Thanks for coming by. I'm Game Mastodon. Peace.